Hello everyone, this is Renier and I bring today a recent game played by Ivanchuk with the black pieces. He lost against John Ludvig-Hammer, young player from Norway, above 2600. Game very interesting. I think you're gonna like it. It's a Catalan opening in which Ivanchuk seems to be equalizing at some point, but then he missed in the right moment and very quickly he loses the game. Okay, let's have a look. d4, d5, c4, g3, bishop e7, and now d takes on c4. This is my second game of the second game that I analyzed for chess videos in this opening. I don't have any experience on it, but I know a little bit. Okay, and I have chose this move, d takes on c4, in both of the games. It's the open variation, and now it's considered the main line. Queen c2, a6, queen takes on c4, and now b5. Queen c2, bishop b7, and bishop d2. Those who saw my previous videos know that I already gave a couple of alternatives to bishop d2, but they are not so good. This is considered the main line and the best move for white in this position. Now Ivanchuk played bishop e4. It's strange, the opening choice by Ivanchuk. He's 100 points above his opponent, and probably white would be satisfied with a draw. Also, it's a team championship. Perhaps a draw against the strongest player of the team, like Ivanchuk, is a good result. But if black didn't want a draw, I don't see why he chose to play this variation. It's a little bit strange. Earlier he played earlier in the tournament he played the Indo-Vinoni against Aronian, and now he plays this variation, which is more solid and with more drawing chances. That's Ivanchuk, unpredictable. So okay, so after bishop e4, queen c1, bishop b7, this is all theory. And now if white wants to avoid the draw, he should play bishop f4, attacking c7. Black can react with bishop d6, which is answered by knight d2. It's not important if black takes on f4, because this would only improve white's control over e5 and c5. White will play e3, knight b3, knight e5, and knight c5. So, or he can play knight d5 in this position, which attacks f4 and defends e7, to which white would reply just with knight c3. And if knight takes on f4, queen takes on f4, with just a slightly better position for white. Okay, but you can see white repeated moves. It's not clear whether he was going to repeat the third time if Ivanchuk played bishop e4. But in the game, Ivanchuk was the one who avoided the repetition with rook a7. Okay, this is a line. This is a theoretical line. Okay, then now the idea is the usual stuff. He wants knight bd7 and eventually c5. Okay, with the knight on b8, it's impossible for white to play bishop a5 because of knight c6. That's the first thing. So white goes rook c1. Bishop e4 defends c7 pawn, attacks the queen. Queen b3, and now black goes bishop d5. Alright, in case of knight bd7, of course white would continue with bishop a5, and black can play queen b8 or queen a8. No, queen b8. On queen a8 the c7 pawn is hanging. So queen b8, and now this is an important position for the variation, and I wanna make a pause here because natural would be knight d2. Okay, this would be the most natural move, but it's not the best move. As you can see, black is not far from equalizing after bishop a8, and now white has no way to prevent the advance of c5. For example, if queen e3, c5, and d takes on c5, knight d5, and on the next move he will win the c5 pawn. Alright, so this is why in this position, before playing knight d2, white should play queen e3. This is the move he should play. Because now if bishop a8, white has the move before. Okay, for example, if bishop a8, white plays before, and it's impossible for black to play c5. That's the trick. Alright, so now let's continue with the game. After queen b3, Ivanchuk played bishop d5, and now the queen goes to e3. The queen is perfect on e3. It controls e5, c5, especially c5, and also not here or anytime sooner, but in some variations in this line, I have noticed that the rook on a7 is sometimes exposed. For example, if there was no bishop on d5, at some point white could play d5 himself, and the rook on a7 would be under attack. Okay, so black now plays knight bd7, bishop a5, pinning the c7 pawn, and now bishop d6. This is Ivanchuk starts going into minor lines, moves that have been played less often. It's more common to see moves like queen b8, but probably not so good after knight bd2, and now if rook c8, before bishop d6, and it looks like white has everything under control after a move like bishop h3, for example, with the idea of queen d3 or knight e5, not allowing the trade of the bishops. So also if before instead, white can try knight b3 with the idea of rook c2 and rook a to c1. Still, if black, I make this point earlier in the previous video, everything is about c5. If black doesn't manage to play c5, he will be in trouble because he will be under pressure. Okay, not queen b8, what else? Perhaps before has been played, but again after knight bd2, queen b8, knight b3, white has some advantage. Okay, with the idea of rook c2 and rook a to c1 again. Okay, so Ivanchuk played bishop d6. This move or this idea has been played by Anand, Carlsen. One of the ideas is, of course, that the bishop on d6 defends c7, so the rook on a7 is with less pressure of defending that pawn. Now, also, black is considering to play at some point e6, e5. If he cannot play c5, then he will try to break in the center with e5. Okay, so now knight c3, attacking the bishop on d5. It looks natural. Another move possible was knight d2, and after queen b8, rook c2. This has never been played, but is interesting. Not sure how black should proceed in this position. Perhaps rook c8, but still rook a c1. It looks it looks comfortable for white. Okay, this is more direct, it's attacking the bishop immediately, so black must move it to b7 or to anywhere, because if we consider white's next the next move played by white, then it doesn't matter where the bishop goes. White went knight g5. A very interesting move, of course. The knight is going to e4, but first white wants to trade the light square bishops. Once you trade this bishop, the square c6 will be permanently weak as long as black doesn't play c5. Alright, also I believe knight d2 perhaps was better. Probably this move is better than knight g5, because the knight on g5 sometimes is exposed and is less flexible. The knight on d2 does the same as on g5, but it has more other ideas on the queen side. For example, if white plays a4 at some point, he can go to the c4 square too. So I believe knight d2 is better. Knight g5 was played in the game. Ivanchuk took on g2, king takes, and now he plays the move queen a8 check. A move that is okay, is normal. Perhaps also it was better to go knight g4, challenging the queen on e3 immediately. Of course, white is forced to play queen d2. There is no other move because the knight on g5 is under attack. And now h6, and if knight e4, bishop e7. And it's not clear if white has any advantage here, because for example on h3 black can replicate with a move like f5 with some counterplay on the king side. Or knight f6 too. That could be okay. But I think f5 works. The h3 f5 should work. Doesn't have c5. Okay, what else? Let me see. Okay, if the knight goes to f3, then queen a8, pinning the knight, and black is ready to play c5 or even e5. Well, e5 is still allows white to play d5, but okay, c5. And also the knight returns to f6. It's perfectly normal. It's not very different from the game, but I think the inclusion of knight g4 forces white to go a little bit backward. The queen on d2 is less effective than on e3, and the knight must return to f3 or e4. In the game after queen a8, this of course forces white to play the natural queen f3, a desired move to trade the queens and also to trade anything that controls the c6 square. And after queen f3, this trade is now already forced. If black refrains from trading the queen on f3, the white queen on f3 remains very active. For example, if white says okay, I'm not going to trade queens, now I play queen b8, then white can try a move like a3, idea of b4, or even if not b4, it just prevents b4 itself. And now if e5, d5, and if b4, after pawn takes, bishop takes, white has this nice move, d5, a break in the center that will lead to a very steady advantage. After he takes on d5, knight takes, he's forced to take here, queen takes, knight f6, and knight f3. Okay, white has a better pawn structure, and black has weaknesses, and black is passive in general. a6, a7 are both weak pawns. Rook c8, rook c2. idea of rook d1, for example, is still just slightly better for white. Not much, but it's always a very annoying advantage. Alright, so after queen f3, king takes on f3, and now Ivanchuk plays e5, which is correct. Note that c5 is impossible because of knight e4, attacking d6 and c5 at the same time. So, and rook c8 preparing c5 doesn't help. After knight e4, bishop e7, knight takes on f6, bishop takes on f6, perhaps not so good. After e3, c5, knight e4, white keeps an advantage. The c5 pawn is pinned. It looks slightly better for white. Basically, the rook on a7 cannot easily get into play, and white will play rook c2, rook c1 very quickly. c4 is always met with b3. So, and knight takes on f6. White can play a3. I like this idea. Also very interesting is e4, in which white keeps his advantage, because c5 is still not possible. After d takes on c5, bishop takes on c5, and now b4. And the idea is that after bishop e7, knight to d5. The rook on c8 is hanging. If rook c1, knight e7. So this will leave white with some advantage. If you take on e7, basically you will get the c file, and the rook goes to c6, and you will have some pressure on the a6 pawn. So, but the a3 is also very interesting. The idea is that after c5, d takes. If black takes with the bishop now, then there are some tactics. For example, with knight takes on b5. This is very nice because there are clean tactics without the queens, without any attacks. It's just like a positional play. A takes, and now bishop b6. So this is kind of nice. And so black has to take with the rook, and then bishop b4. And it looks like the position is about equal, but not. White retains some advantage. For example, if rook f5, check. After king g2, taking on b4 is not good because it will open the a file, also leave a drawback pawn on a6. So, and here the problem is that the black rook on f5 is in danger most of the time. Not that like black is gonna lose the rook, but it remains out of the battle. For example, if rook d7, after e4, rook h5, white can just fight for the d file, and if king f8, trying to get to e8, white has the move g4. Black cannot take on d1 because after rook d1, if knight takes on g4, rook d8 is mate. Has to play a move like rook g5 and h3 threatening f4. Now is serious. I mean, black doesn't want to play e5, leaving the rook on g5 forever. So rook f5 wouldn't be the best move. Rook c4 would be better, but still after b3, rook c7, bishop takes, rook takes, and now knight e4. It looks like white is trading everything, but the reality is that he keeps a small advantage in this endgame because of the c file open, and he has some initiative there. For example, if rook c7, rook d1 is threatening checkmate. So if knight d5, rook c1, black doesn't want to trade on c1 because then after rook c6, knight c5, he might lose material. And if king f8, knight c5, and the position is not pleasant for black. I mean, white will play e4, king e3, f3, b4, improve his position. Meanwhile, black has two rooks, one on c7, one on a7, doing nothing, and he can only hope for equality, for a drawish position. I mean, white is playing risk-free. So, and if not knight d5 here, if he plays a move like king f8, then after knight takes on f6, probably the best is g takes on f6, but rook c1, and white should be a little bit better. Okay, if rook c3, rook d3, takes, g takes on f6, and then again rook c1. Idea of rook to c6. The white rook is more active. The endgame is, okay, you can say it will be a draw with best play, yes, but unpleasant for black. If rook d7, king e3, if rook d6, then g4. This move keeps the f6 pawn there, and white has ideas with rook c5 and rook h5. I know it's not a great advantage, but it's still better for white, and okay, black can only lose or make a draw. That's the two results that he has. Okay, so the move played by Ivanchuk is far better. It's e5. This move seems to get close to equality. Now e3. Of course, white could take on e5, but after knight takes on e5 with check and knight c4, black would be much better. The bishop on a5 is trapped, so white has to play e3. Also, a pawn on d4, although it would be an isolated pawn, it doesn't really matter so much. The pawn is important because it still controls critical squares like e5 and c5. For example, after a move like e takes on d4, white will simply take, and if knight b6, b3. I would say that bishop b6 was attractive when I started analyzing this, but after knight e4, then after the right bishop e7, I think white's advantage is not that much, because the knights are a little bit sloppy. If you take on f6 after bishop f6, it's immediately attacking d4, and black will play rook d7. I believe white has a small plus, but nothing really serious. Probably defensible for black. But I guess b3 is better, keeping the knight out, and white still wants to play knight e4, rook c2, and put pressure on the c file. The rook on a7 remains there. That's one good thing for white. Okay, but Ivanchuk played bishop e7. Still, I believe black should have taken on d4 and go for that position. That's probably, I think, is acceptable. It's a little bit passive, but it's totally playable. Knight e2. This is a very clever move. White opens the c file, and if black takes on d4, he will recapture with the knight, and the white knight on d4 is very, very strong. Just look at the c6 square. Remember that all of these battles since the opening, we're talking about the c5 and c6 square, and here that's what's happening. If black now takes on d4 after knight takes on d4, then he's in serious trouble because knight c6 is coming. Now he plays rook e8. I also don't really like this move. I think the best, and I don't know what made Ivanchuk not play this move, is a6. And the idea is that after knight e4 he can take on d4, and it's impossible for white to capture with the knight because of knight e5 check. That's the difference. That is the difference between the other lines. Now knight takes on d4 is met with knight e5 check. So after e takes on d4 he can take, and the king on e4 is not in the best possible square. Of course not. There are many pieces on the board still, and e4 is no place for a king. So black can just play c5, and with this all of the problems are solved. If f4, bishop d8, get rid of the bishop on a5, bishop takes, rook takes, d takes on c5, knight f6, and rook d3. Black has too much activity. Rook d2, and I found a draw here, c6, rook e7. Okay, rook c7, why would just go b3? So rook e7 and now c7, and it's a draw by perpetual check. So okay, it's kind of nice variation, but it's just for a draw. h6 seems completely sound for black in this position. It's still rook e8. I'm not sure exactly what was the idea behind the move. Okay, of course white went king g2. The king was exposed on f3, and now not only white wants to give some safety for the king, but also bring the knight back to f3. That's more natural than the square e4 isn't appealing anymore, and knight f3, knight d2, and try to work on the c file again. Black plays knight d5, knight f3, and now I think Ivanchuk plays the decisive mistake, already on move 25 only. I guess right here the only move is e4. After knight d2, f5 of course, and the game is very complex. I'm not sure if white can try moves like g4, perhaps not now, perhaps at some point, with the idea that g6 is met with g takes on f5 and knight g3, but of course this weakens the white king too, so it has to be considered very well. But this was probably the only way to play. Other moves will allow white to create certain pressure on the queen side. Knight b3, rook c6, rook a to c1. Doesn't look good. In the game Ivanchuk played bishop d6. Amazing, but this might be the final mistake, and after d takes on e5 everything becomes clear. Knight takes on e5, knight takes, and now rook takes on e5. Perhaps a little better was bishop takes on e5, but white would play rook c2 followed by rook d1, and still he will have a large advantage just because of the rook on a7 is not playing, and there is constant pressure against the c7 pawn. So white here has a comfortable advantage, I would say. Still, perhaps this is better than the game. In the game Ivanchuk took with the rook, and then after knight d4 the threat of knight c6 is terrible for black. He might be losing material, so he has to go rook a8, and now finally the knight gets to c6, and this allows white to put a lot of pressure now. Rook e6, now very strong move, rook c2. Just a little move. What's the idea? He wants to play rook d1, keeping the rook on the c file, rook d1 on the next move, and slowly improve the position until black collapses. Black goes knight b6, maybe not the best move, b3, and now king f8. Also not the best move, but after a move like bishop f8, for example, why would just play rook d1, threatening bishop takes on b6 and rook d7. There is very little black can do in such positions, very little. So Ivanchuk played king f8, is trying to get the king to e8, but this can only bring some problems. Now rook d1, king e8, knight d4. very strong move. If rook e5, black loses materials to bishop b6 takes and knight takes on b5, and the endgame is probably lost. I mean, there is no real hope in a rook endgame like this. So rook f6, trying to maintain everything together, but white finds an extremely strong move here, e4, and the idea is clear. Now if knight d7, white will play f4, threatening e5. Black is hopeless. And if bishop e5, white would play knight f3. And again, he's threatening the bishop. If the bishop moves, then e5. So black only has the move rook d6, and white has rook c1. Now the bishop on e5 is attacked, the c7 pawn is attacked, so black is again lost. Ivanchuk did what the only thing he could do, rook g6. Sad place for a rook, but there was no choice. And now the move that practically wins the game, e5. Black cannot take, of course, because of rook e2. So what to do? Everything loses material. If the bishop moves, white will take on c7. So, but what to do is there isn't any choice. Bishop e7, rook takes on c7. Now the knight on b6 is also in trouble. To a move like knight c6 or even e6 at some point. So he goes knight d5, also trying to get the rook out of the 7th rank. But of course not. Rook b7, bishop d8, another very strong move here, knight f5. White wants the d5 knight. Knight f4, king f3, bishop takes on a5, g takes on f4. The position is absolutely hopeless for black. There isn't anything he could do right now. If rook d8, rook e7 check, and rook d7 perhaps, I don't know, it's anything is good here. So also knight d6 and rook takes on f7 is very clear, very clean. So Ivanchuk played bishop b4, controlling the d6 square, rook d7, rook c8. There isn't anything else to do. The f7 pawn cannot be defended. Rook takes on f7, rook c3, king e4. There are no more checks, and white will take on g7 on the next move with the knight, with the rook, with anything, and win the game. Okay, everybody, this is it for today. This was I don't think young Ludwig has beaten anybody of such a rating before, at least in a classical game. I'm not sure, but anyway, this was a great game for the young Norwegian player. And okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. I certainly did. Everything on this game is very interesting. The opening and the way to play such positions without the queens. Okay, so this is it for today, and I'll see you again probably with a game of mine played recently in a couple of tournaments that I played, one here in Montreal and the other one in Spain. Okay, good luck and keep watching my videos. Thank you. Bye.